Donald Trump's policies are causing real harm. This is Law and Society. Please subscribe and let's talk about this. So, Donald Trump took out his big felt pen and signed an executive order saying that he's going to eliminate the Department of Education and dismantling it, despite the fact and acknowledgement by the White House that Donald Trump cannot unilaterally undo the Department of Education without congressional approval. Well, when you talk about taking away the Department of Education, you're not just talking about the funding that goes through student loan programs to colleges. You're also talking about the entire public school system in the United States of America. You are talking about school systems in rural areas that cannot afford to have private schools. You're talking about towns of 1,000 people, 2,000, 3,000 people that are in the heartland of the United States that will not be able to get that funding if the state that's going to allocate the funding that the Department of Education gives decides not to have a public education infrastructure at all. The way that Donald Trump is going to probably dispense the money from the Department of Education is essentially give states whatever money that he deems that those states are deserving of. Because he's even undoing every one of these agencies is a consolidation of power into Donald Trump. I've talked about the consolidation of wealth and power and how it has created this autocratic oligarchy before. And we are seeing it play out in chapters because the goal is for people to pay taxes and then Donald Trump have the say of who gets taxpayer money, which states do, and then the states get to say whether there will be a public education department at all or not. Essentially taking away the protections enacted by Congress to ensure that there is uniformity in how our education system works around the country. Yes, our education system needed reform, but it did not need dismantling. And the school education programs are not just purely for education, but also for support for children with disabilities, because the federal government has to adhere by the Americans with Disabilities Act, and public facilities are mandated by law to follow those procedures. If you don't have a public institution, those private institutions where the vouchers will go from the states for people who may or may not have these disability services available to children with disabilities. So the equal playing field that the Department of Education plays will be nullified, and education across the United States will not happen in a uniform manner. Not just education, but also access to education for disabled children and access to food for kids who come from food insecure communities and from lower income group communities. And that goes to the other place where Donald Trump's actions are harming. There are conservation projects with farmers and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture fundings have been frozen or the money has been withdrawn. Employees have been fired. Even after some farmers implemented these conservation projects, the money that is due to them from the Department of Agriculture has frozen. It is not coming. So that is an that is an illegal withholding of congressional funds from the Education Department, from the Department of Agriculture, that not just hurts the children who won't get a good education, but also the farms that in federal programs provide fresh produce to schools to both be able to sustain those farms and to be able to provide food insecure communities and lower income group communities with food in the schools. At least one good meal a day. And then USDA's responsibility, the Agriculture Department's responsibilities, goes beyond just the schools, because they also provide food to food banks around the country, and helping out these food banks and being able, and then getting subsidized from the government, the USDA, the government Department of Agriculture, and the collaborations with the farmers is what keeps these farmers afloat. And with these funds frozen, companies in the commerce of America, which is like John Deere is a big name, they are laying off people. The people, the departments doing research for the Department of Agriculture to come up with pest resistant strains of corn or any other sort of research done to help us produce food better and more efficiently. That research has been frozen. And the ironic part here is that 77% of American farmers voted for Donald Trump in the rural areas all over the country. So, versus the 49.8% of the plurality votes that Donald Trump got in the election. And so what do these farmers think now? I don't envy their position at all. And I'm not saying they now deserve this, because no, they don't. They put their faith in their government, and now Donald Trump is betraying them. Our government is betraying them. Donald Trump has moved to shut down our National Weather Service programs. So to be able to privatize those, instead of having a uniform system throughout the United States from Hawaii to Alaska, and by doing that also providing a global idea, a global consensus that the world could rely on with the weather, he's going to disband that and allow for privatization of that. And obviously, you would have to pay for that privatization, those services, if you wanted to know what the weather was going to be. Is that the kind of America where these are the basic services that we are seeing go away in a very short period of time? And the funding from in the states that are given by federal already, that's in the coffers, will happen, but the pain will come in a year, in 2 years, when the federal funding goes away. And no federal funding is reimbursed, when farms start to go under in these rural communities, when companies like John Deere producing farm equipment start to, show massive losses because, they're not going to be selling to farmers because farmers are not getting the money from USDA, nor are they having a productive harvest, nor is there research in the USDA. And then you go, then I want to talk about the Federal Trade Commission. Donald Trump fired one of the commissioners, Rebecca Slaughter, and it is great that Ms. Slaughter has decided to fight back, and she's going to fight as high as it goes, because it is an illegal firing of a commissioner of an agency that is an independent agency created by Congress. So that issue is going to go up to the Supreme Court. We know that for a fact. And then there is the horror and the harm that's caused by the immigration that is happening, the immigration raids, and then the government going and picking up students from campuses who they claim have pro-Hamas sentiments without any proof, without any crime committed, just for their expression. When you come into the United States legally, and even if you've been in the United States and you live in the United States and you're undocumented, when you enter the United States, human beings are afforded the basic rights that we adhere to, chief among them, the right to due process. Are they seeking asylum? Are they students? Do they have valid visas? Are they just visitors? Are they seeking refuge? Are they just sneaking in, and are they bad actors? There are bad actors, but not nearly to the degree to which Donald Trump or his administration portrays. So there will be orders coming from courts where these people have to be brought back. Whether Donald Trump adheres to the DC Circuit because he has now appealed that case from Chief Judge Boasberg to the DC Circuit, or the Supreme Court, they will be brought back for due process if the Supreme Court is to adhere by the rule of law. Because a large chunk of those people have not committed any crimes. Many of them were in the United States for asylum, and they had asylum hearings set up. Then going to the next topic I want to talk to you about, a couple of things, is that there's news that Elon Musk is going to be privy to a top secret plan about what would happen if there was a war with China. Now, Donald Trump has come out and denied it on Truth Social, but when he denies something so flatly and overtly, you know that there's something to it, and there's some sort of briefing that Elon Musk is going to get. And my questions are, does he have security clearance? Well, the president can give anybody security clearance that they want. Fine. Has he been Senate confirmed for being a senior advisor in the level that they will be given highly classified, top secret national briefings of national security? Has he divested from his companies so there's no conflict of interest between the defense contracts that he has, and as well as his businesses in China? The answer is no to all those questions. And so the question is, why is Elon Musk getting any kind of briefing from the government? It is an obscenity. It is a corruption of our government, and it is an infiltration of our government by somebody who I consider to be an enemy of democracy all around the world, but especially and acutely in the United States, because that's where he operates, to the extent of bankrolling Donald Trump's campaign, paying $277 plus dollars, and he has since given Donald Trump's PAC about $11 plus million, or bankrolling the election in Wisconsin of Supreme Court, because that would have a huge impact on how Wisconsin deals with elections in the upcoming years. That sort of conflict of interest is just mind-boggling and confounding. It's like Killing and Moss, and just in such a degree that the world is shocked by your depravity and don't know what to do. That's what's happening here. It's a killing of democratic norms and structures and departments in front of our eyes. And then there's, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick going on TV telling people to buy Teslas. What is that? You're using the airwaves as Commerce Secretary to do a sales pitch for Elon Musk, and Donald Trump is using the White House for doing essentially a big ad campaign for Tesla on the White House front lawn. These things are just obscene. It's a desecration of the White House. It is a desecration of the executive branch. It is a usurping of the rule of law. It is neutering congressional powers by withholding funds appropriated by Congress and not enforcing the laws and executing the laws that the President of the United States is required to do under our Constitution. That's what's happening. And there is backlash in society. And I'll leave you with this last nugget, that Teslas are being burned down in their parking lots by, I would assume, by vandals all around the country and in Canada. And, this is bad. That's not how, destruction of property is not how you protest. But what that has resulted in is Donald Trump essentially saying that we are going to weaponize, that's what Pam Bondi said, we're going to go after these people. The people at the Tesla dealership who are protesting in front of Tesla dealerships. Well, protesting on public land outside the Tesla dealership is a public right, a constitutional right. And vandalism and peaceful protest are not the same things. So you can place time, place, manner restrictions on how somebody may protest on public land and public spaces, but you cannot stop somebody from peacefully protesting in a public space, because that is a violation of the First Amendment. So this is the hodgepodge that we're in. This is me updating you, telling you about some of the real harm that's being caused because of the chaos that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have brought to our government. And because I want you to be aware of where we are. Remain vigilant, stay strong, speak up with the truth, research the truth, cross-reference what I'm saying with other shows and other resources. I want you to trust media, but the way to find right media is to go through as many as you can personally and then determine the facts for yourself based on what you have seen and heard. And that's what I hope to empower you to do with the information that I'm providing. With that said, thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.